Hello and welcome back to Moonlit Journal. So I recently posted my 2025 anti-haul video a couple of weeks ago, and the other side of that is my stationery wish list. So although there are quite a few items that I know for sure I'm not purchasing this year, there are still several items that I am coveting and that I'm really tempted to purchase this year, and I thought it would be fun to share those items with you all today. This is just going to be like a very lighthearted video. I did want to just say that just because these things are on my wish list, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm actually going to purchase them. In fact, it's highly likely that most of the things I talk about today, I will not be purchasing. I spend a lot of time considering my purchases. And actually, the reason why I make a stationery wish list in the first place is because I end up consuming less whenever I do that. Whenever I'm tracking the things that I'm interested in purchasing, I find that the act of putting it on a wish list kind of adds a barrier to purchasing it. Like, it's one more step that I'm adding to the process that adds that little bit of friction that ultimately results in me not purchasing as much. It's really interesting, actually, to see how when you introduce even the smallest of barriers between the thought of, oh, I really want this looks beautiful, or like, I need to have this, and the actual action of purchasing it, when you introduce something small, a small step in between that, it is actually enough of a hindrance and kind of a mental pause to stop me from purchasing. So that's really why I have a stationery wish list going, is it forces me to actually sit down, write down the item that I think in my mind that I really need or I really want. And often when I see it written out on paper and I flip back to it often, I realize that it kind of takes away that initial craze and the magic that that item seems to possess at first for me. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, all that to say, I thought it would be fun to share the list of items that I have on my wish list, but I did just want to note that I'm probably not going to purchase a lot of these items. They're just things that I covet, if that makes sense, and that I am really interested in and intrigued by, or I feel like my fantasy journaling self would love these things. So yeah, I would highly recommend, if you don't have a stationery wish list going, to create one. It really helps you to be more thoughtful and intentional about the things you believe you need in your life, and it often helps you realize that you don't actually need them or might not even want them anymore just a couple days later. But this is my list as of today, as of right now. These are all things that I really, really want and that I find myself looking up a lot and consuming content about and thinking about. And it's fun. It's all in good fun. And at the end of the day, this is my hobby. So I love researching different stationery items that I don't currently possess, things that I'd love to try out if I were to see them in person. It's just a passion of mine. So I personally love seeing other people's wish list items because I feel like it says a lot about that person, like what their preferences are and how they like to interact with their journals. It's really interesting and it's a lot of fun to watch. So hopefully this is entertaining for you all. And I would love to know in the comments, what are the items on your wish list currently? What are things that you've been coveting and really interested in? I think that would be really, really fun to see everyone's wish list items in the comments. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Hopefully I didn't drag this intro out too long. But the first category of items in my wish list are notebooks. And I'm really happy with my current system, just using the Hobonichi Cousin as my main journal and commonplace, and then using the Hobonichi Weeks as my health tracker, and I have some traveler's notebooks for YouTube planning and for ink swatching. So those are the main 4 notebooks in my system right now, and I would say the daily driver is my Hobonichi cousin. And that's going to continue. And so really the first notebook on my wish list is actually the 2025 Spring Start cousin, because I'm currently in a 2024 Spring Start. So come the start of April, that book will no longer be usable. It's going to run out of weekly pages, and I really need the weekly pages. So I would say one item that I for sure will be purchasing off my stationery wish list is the Spring Start Hobonichi. But there's another notebook that I want to introduce into my system, and that is a pocket or passport sized book. Basically something really small that can fit in a pocket or in my purse as I'm out and about in the world. I would really like to have a book with me when I'm outside doing errands or waiting in line somewhere. I want to be able to capture observations and thoughts that I have when I'm not at my desk. Because right now, I feel like a lot of the thoughts that I have throughout the day get lost. I don't necessarily document the observations that I make through the day, and I don't have a dedicated place for that. And I would love to have kind of a scrappy, small notebook that I take with me everywhere I go, where I can quickly jot down the random thoughts that I have in my mind, or maybe things that I see when I'm outside that I really want to capture and look back on. Maybe it's a quote that I read in a magazine somewhere, or something interesting that someone says to me, like a fact that I'd like to remember. I find a lot of the times when I'm waiting in my car when I'm outside, I often create like poetry in my mind, and I do that a lot, and I'm sad that it just is lost after that point. Like I completely forget it. I basically just want a pocket notebook for me to capture the interesting thoughts and observations that I have everywhere I go, rather than losing them. I mainly want to do this so that I can practice more present moment awareness, more mindfulness of my surroundings, and rely less on my phone as a way to entertain me when I'm out and about. So yeah, I will do a more in-depth video about this once I do end up purchasing a pocket notebook and using it for a while. But it is something I would really love to add to my life. And I'm not sure what book I want to purchase just yet. I mean, it could be a traveler's notebook in a passport size. It could be a plotter mini. It could be as simple as just a field notes grid paper notebook, or a Moleskine or Leuchtturm. So I'm still figuring out what book is going to fit the best in my pockets and in my purse, but I'm really interested in purchasing a pocket notebook. And if any of you have something similar in your life, please let me know what book you prefer for that purpose. So yeah, those are kind of the two notebooks that are on my wish list: a pocket notebook and a Hobonichi Spring Start for 2025. Okay, next up on my list is all of the tools that I'd like to add for my journaling practice. The first one being a portable photo printer. I currently don't have a printer at home, and I would really love to be able to print out pictures as I'm journaling, because right now I kind of have to plan ahead. I need to like prep a print file so that I could print out my pictures at FedEx. And luckily there's a FedEx right next to my gym, so I'm able to go quite often and it's pretty convenient for me. But there are days when I want to write about a specific memory or an outing that we had where I took pictures on my phone, and I really want to capture that memory, but I have to wait because I need to go to FedEx and print out the pictures. So instead, I think I would really just love to have a portable photo printer. That way it's small, and a lot of them have sticky back paper anyway, so I don't even have to worry about cutting things out and gluing it onto my pages. I can just peel it right away and add it to my journal. And so I think it would be really convenient to have a photo printer. And the one that I'm most interested in right now is the Canon Selfie Square. I've heard really great things about it. I've seen a lot of like Reddit discussions about different photo printer comparisons. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, and the consensus that I'm seeing is that the Canon Selfie Square is really great quality. Like the colors are accurate compared to something like the Canon Ivy. I know the Ivy is also really popular in the journaling community, so I'm still kind of considering between the two, but I'm leaning more towards the Canon Selfie Square because I also just like the dimensions of that one and the size of the printouts. I do like that it is more true to color. That is the first tool that's on my list. And then the last tool is a dip pen, and just in general, like swatching tools for fountain pen inks. Now that I'm getting into the world of fountain pens and inks, I definitely want to start documenting all of the inks that I try out over time. And I'm just starting with samples at this point, so I can see myself accumulating a lot of samples in just this coming year. And I want to be able to properly document the samples that I'm getting so that I really can understand how each ink looks in writing and not just in like a big swatch. So a dip pen is going to be really vital for that, I think. And I know there's varying price points for this. There's the Kakimori brass dip pens that seem to be on the more expensive side, but I also have seen like Pilot dip pens that are really affordable, under the $10 price point. I've seen some Sailor ones, so I'm still figuring out what I'd like to use, but I think I'd like to start with one of the more affordable options since I'm so new to this hobby. But yeah, just more tools for being able to swatch all of the beautiful inks that I will try out this year. Okay, now getting into pen cases, because there's a couple ones that I've been looking at for years now at this point. It's kind of crazy how expensive pen cases can get, and that's really what stopped me from purchasing these. But the craftsmanship on all of them are just gorgeous. They're beautiful to look at. Every time I see videos of these cases, I want to purchase them. Like, they're so beautiful. So the first one is the Superior Labor Utility Leather Case, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this case. It's very, very popular here on YouTube and social media, but I think for good reason. It's beautifully constructed. It's extremely functional. It's huge. It has a huge capacity, so I know it would fit all of the tools that I use on a daily basis. And I just love the Superior Labor. I love their products. I love their aesthetic. I love the care that they put into everything that they create, and the craftsmanship and the leather quality. And yeah, just very aligned with that brand's aesthetic and approach to creating products. There has always been two reasons why I've not been able to purchase that case thus far. One, the price point. It's really expensive and it is justified. I'm not complaining about the price. It's just that I personally could never pull the trigger. But I think I'm finally at a stage in my journaling hobby and this practice where it would make sense for me to get that case. But the second issue is that it's always sold out. I've never been able to see it in stock every time I've went to go check. So finally now I have signed up for like restock notifications on that case, but it's really, really hard to get your hands on the TSL utility leather case. I just never seem to find it in stock. And so that is a bummer for sure, but hopefully sometime this year they'll have a restock. I know that they released some canvas versions of that case, but it just doesn't hit the same. Like the leather version is really what I'm interested in. I think it's so beautiful. And so yeah, I'm gonna wait for that to restock. Hopefully it does restock at some point, but gosh, I love that case. I love that it has a section for pens on the right side and then tools on the left side with a zip closure. Everything feels really protected. It's really spacious. I just think I could fit so much in there, and it would be perfect for traveling as well, but it would also just look beautiful sitting on my desk and bring me a lot of joy. So yeah, I hope to get that case sometime this year. I would also love to get a fountain pen case. And there's two different ones that I've been looking at mainly. The first one is the Euroliku 3-pen case. I love the aesthetic of the Euroliku cases in general. I just love how the colors are so muted and they kind of look worn in a very aesthetically pleasing way. And I really like that. I love how flat and compact they are, but they kind of have this slouchy look to them as well. I just really love the way that those cases look. And what I really like about the 3-pen case is that it seems like my pens would be really protected because each pen gets its own little pocket to go into. And that's really the point of a fountain pen case, is to individually protect each pen, in my opinion. So I would want to get something that I know would protect my fountain pens. At this point, I only have one fountain pen in my collection, which is the TWSBI Eco, but I anticipate my collection growing slowly through the year and potentially having like 3 or 4 pens by the end of the year. We'll see. In fact, that even feels like too much. Maybe I'll aim for max 3 pens by the end of the year. We'll see. But I would love to have a case that's going to protect my pens. And the Euroliku one looks beautiful to me. However, I am a little concerned that it's not like padded enough to really protect pens. I do like that each pen gets its own sleeve, but I still feel like canvas might not be protective enough somehow. So that's the only hesitation I have with that case. But I found another case that seems even more perfect to me, and that's the and Lieb cases. First of all, I think their cases are beautiful. They are made of leather. I'm not quite sure what the interior is, but it kind of looks like a suede material. And it looks really protective, really beautifully made. I think it just looks so sleek and classy, and tactility-wise, it looks like just the kind of thing that I like, something kind of squishy and padded, but still compact. And they have different variations. They have like a 3-pen version and a 6-pen version. And again, each pen gets its own sleeve, so it's fully protected. And I just feel like it would be more protective than the Euroliku case. So I'm really looking at the and Lieb cases, but they are definitely more expensive. And they also seem to be sold out quite often, so just something to consider there. But yeah, I would love one of those cases. They're just beautiful in my opinion. But as for pen cases, those are really the 3 ones that I'm coveting. The TSL utility case, the and Lieb fountain pen case, and the Euroliku 3-pen case. Okay, and that kind of brings us into fountain pens. Right now, I only have one fountain pen, which is this beautiful TWSBI Eco in smoke rose gold with a fine nib. And I love this pen. I'm so happy with it. It writes beautifully. It's so smooth. It glides on the paper. And I think it looks beautiful as well. I love the exposed ink on this. I love the rose gold detailing. It's relatively comfortable to hold, not too heavy in my hand. I just love this pen a lot. But I would say for my wish list, it's basically every other pen out there in existence, because I'm so curious to try all of the pens because I'm so new to this hobby of fountain pens. I don't even know if you would call it a hobby, but the practice of using fountain pens is very new to me. And so there's so many brands that I'd like to try. I find the Kaweco Sports really cute. Like I'm really drawn to them anytime I see them in videos. So I would love to try a Kaweco Sport. I would love to try more Pilot pens. I know there's a lot of great ones out there. The Kakuno, the Vanishing Point, the Custom 823. There's a lot. And then there's all the Sailor pens. I find Sailors so stunning, particularly the Pro Gears and the Pro Gear Slims. I really love the silhouette of those pens, and I love the different colorways that they keep coming out with. I just find Sailors so beautiful, so I would love to try Sailor. Also, since I love the TWSBI Eco so much, I'm really curious about the TWSBI Diamond 580s as well. So that's another one on my wish list. But like I said in my recent anti-haul video, because I'm so new to using fountain pens, I don't want to purchase anything super expensive this year. And I've kind of given myself the rule of staying beneath the $100 price point. One, because I'm so new to the practice of using these. Two, because I'm left-handed and I've realized from trying several pens at the recent California Pen Show and from talking to some vendors there, I realized that the writing experience is quite different for a left-handed person than it is for a right-handed person. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because when you're writing with your left hand, you're pushing the nib on the paper versus a right-handed person is kind of dragging the nib. So it's a very different motion and pressure on the pen. And as a result, I find a lot of fountain pens really scratchy to write with that a right-handed person would not consider scratchy. So there's that consideration for me too. And that's a big reason why I want to make sure I'm trying pens out, like actually testing out the pen on paper before I purchase anything, because I really want to make sure it's comfortable for me to write with. So for all of these pens that are on my wish list, the Kavecos, the Pilots, the Sailors, I definitely want to make sure I'm actually testing out the pen before I decide to purchase anything, because I've just noticed I can't go solely on reviews online because most people reviewing fountain pens are right-handed. And I just find that the writing experience is usually different for me. So yeah, although there's so many pens I'd like to try, I definitely want to demo them before purchasing. As for inks, I think the world of inks is so large, so vast, that I cannot even begin to create a wish list. But I will say there are two ink lines that I find really compelling and that I'm really drawn to. The first one is Wearingeul. I love this brand. I love that all of their inks are inspired by works of art, whether that's actual artwork or music or literature. I know a lot of their inks are paying homage to different works of literature. And I love that. I love that there is a narrative to their brand. And I'm someone who is a sucker for that. Like, I really love when brands have a very clear voice and narrative. I think it adds to the fun of the hobby. And it kind of creates that emotional connection to a brand or to a particular ink. So I'm really drawn to that. But I also just really love Wearingeul's ink shades. Like, I think they do the muted, murky tones really, really well. And there's so many inks of theirs that I find just stunning, like right up my alley. And I'll put some pictures of some examples, but I think they really do the more desaturated, muted tones really, really well. And yeah, I just love their branding so much. So I would love to try some Wearingeul inks this year. And I hope I'm pronouncing their brand correctly. I think they're a Korean-based brand. At the California Pen Show, I was able to look through a lot of their ink swatches, and so many of them called out to me. I just think they're beautiful. So that's one brand in particular that I'm interested in. The other one is all of the Pilot Iroshizuku inks. I think the colors are stunning, first of all. I love that they seem to be inspired by the Japanese landscape and colors found in nature, which again, I love the narrative behind that. But I also just think that the colors themselves are beautiful. They're very unique. They're very eye-catching. And I did also get to try the Kirisame ink in that series, and I loved the way that it wrote. I love that they seem to be quite wet, and the flow was just beautiful in my TWSBI Eco. So it was really, really nice to write with that ink. So I'm curious to try out more inks in the Iroshizuku line. We're finally at the last category, which is Deco for my journals. So stickers, stamps, washi tape. I mentioned this in my stationery favorites video when I was talking about my Yohaku washi tapes. And let me just get them real quick. But I currently have these two washi tapes from Yohaku. I just think they're beautiful. I really love all of the Yohaku designs that I've seen. There's something very ethereal and nostalgic and kind of magical about their designs. I'm really, really drawn to them. And yeah, I'd love to try more Yohaku washi tapes this year. I don't necessarily want to buy full rolls though, because I find that I never really go through a roll and it feels kind of wasteful to me. But I think it is possible for me to get through these just because of how much I love the designs. So I don't know, but I'm gonna try to maybe get some samples of Yohaku tapes this year because I really, really love their designs. I think it's so beautiful. There's something about it that just feels very sentimental and nostalgic to me. It's like looking at a memory somehow. But yeah, I just love the Yohaku tapes. And I know a lot of people do as well. So that is something definitely on my list. I also want to explore more stamps. I think rather than getting more stickers, I really like the idea of using stamps more in my spreads because it's something that is multi-use for one. It's not disposable. And I could switch it up by using different ink colors for my stamps. So I could really make any stamp work on any spread because you can make the color match to it. I also just love how stamps look in other people's spreads. I always just love the aesthetic of that. And there's so many wooden stamps that I've seen online that I find beautiful. There's a lot of like text-based ones, like little titles that I think would be really helpful to have. And I'll show some examples as I'm talking, but I think there's a brand called Favorites that makes a lot of those text-based stamps. I just think they add really nice accents to the page, and I love the way that they look. And yeah, they're less wasteful because you can use them over and over again. So I definitely want to get some stamps. I think there's a few by Baumkuchen that I really love, like Baumkuchen original stamps that I'd love to get. They just look so delicate and aesthetically pleasing. But I think that's really it when it comes to deco. Like I think that's one category where I'm okay if I don't purchase anything, honestly, for the rest of the year because I have quite a few stickers already, and I've realized I like to use pictures more than I do stickers or washi tape. Like I like finding pictures on Pinterest or pictures that I take and just printing that out and using that in my spreads. Usually I'm writing about something specific and the stickers don't really go with what I'm writing about. It's more important to me that I add a picture of what I'm writing about. So yeah, deco is kind of the least important part of my wish list, I would say. If I really had to narrow down my wish list to like the top 3 items that I want to purchase this year, it would be getting a pocket-sized notebook for me to capture thoughts and observations when I'm out and about, getting a fountain pen case or the TSL utility leather case, so some sort of new pen case, and then lastly, I would say the Spring Start Hobonichi, because that is something I actually 100% know that I need very soon. So yeah, the rest of the items are all just things that I love consuming content about, things that I'm obsessing over, but that I don't necessarily need. in my life. So yeah, I think that brings me to the end of this wish list. I know that was super long. There's a lot of stationery items that I'm very interested in. We will see over the course of this year what I actually end up purchasing. Of course, I'm going to share every new acquisition with you all because it's so much fun to talk to you about these things. And like I said earlier, I would love to hear in the comments what items you have on your stationery wish list for this year. That is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're here till the end, I really, really appreciate you being here and giving me company. And I'm so happy to have you here. I hope you've been having a wonderful start to your March, and I will see you in the next one.